New York's adult use marijuana industry rode a chaotic roller coaster the past 2 days after a state Supreme Court judge on Wednesday struck down nearly all regulations for the market, only to issue a revised, much narrower ruling 1 day later, you guys. That's right. Last year, Leafly Holdings sued New York's Office of Cannabis Management, challenging the state's third-party advertising for cannabis retailers on free speech grounds. But in a scathing ruling dated April 3rd that began to circulate, Thursday's Albany Supreme Court Judge Kevin Bryant called the laws regulating adult-use marijuana in New York unconstitutionally vague. The OCM offered a complete lack of justification for its own laws, wrote Bryant, who struck down nearly all of the statutes regarding the state's industry. However, late Thursday, Bryant issued a much narrower ruling. When the later discussion was posted on the court docket Friday morning, Bryant declared that the ban on third-party advertising was null and void and arbitrary and capricious. In a brief statement emailed to MJ Biz Daily on Friday, a spokesperson for the OCM said that the regulators are reviewing the decision and exploring all possible legal options. The fluid situation showed confusion among licensed marijuana operators and applicants still struggling to open state-regulated businesses, and it also delivered yet another blow to the industry's tearing confidence in state regulators, whose rollout of an adult use market has been described as a disaster by Governor Kathy Hochul. The serious whiplash caused by the judge signals more possible trouble ahead, said Fatima Afia, a cannabis lawyer at the New York City-based Rudick Law Group, and in quotes, though most of us in the industry breathed a big sigh of relief upon reading the amended order, the New York regulatory framework is not out of the woods yet, she told MJ Biz Daily via an email. In both his original and amended rulings, Bryant extricated New York's marijuana regulations, noting a complete lack of justification for state rules and a failure to cite any evidentiary to support the record. That condemnation opens the door for other legal challenges, Afia said. In a quote, in other words, the adult use market in New York is still quite vulnerable even after the Leafly decision was amended, making business planning for applicants and licenses very challenging. New York's regulated cannabis operators, already in a heightened state of thanks to a botched rollout of the adult use that's been plagued by lawsuits, reacted to the ruling with a mix of confusion and anxiety. Callie Dryhurst, a Leafly spokesperson, welcomed the ruling and, quote, says, we are pleased to hear that the court agreed with our claims after considering the facts, Dehorst wrote in a statement. And in another statement, we hope the decision encourages the New York Office of Cannabis Management to consider a more reasonable approach to promote licensed and regulated cannabis in the state. Hochul last month launched a top-to-bottom audit of the OCM and set up functions, and rumors have been percolating that the jobs of top regulators are in jeopardy. New York's regulated marijuana market is still struggling to find its footing amongst the years after state lawmakers passed the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, the MRTA, and scandal-plagued former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who signed the MRTA into law in 2021, who's slow to make key appointments to the OCM and its CCB. A series of lawsuits also plagued the rollout legal marijuana in New York, including vaunted conditional adult use recreational dispensary, better known as the CURD program, which reserved the first licenses for social equity applicants. As of Thursday, only 99 businesses were licensed to sell marijuana in the state of New York, according to the latest OCM data, and adult use marijuana sales in New York barely topped $150 million in 2023, even as Missouri, which legalized adult use almost 18 months after New York, topped $1 billion in sales. New York is also home to perhaps the country's most audacious illicit market, and the number of unlicensed sellers in New York City alone are estimated to be as high as 2,000 retailers. Well, I think it's probably even a little higher than that, but nonetheless, this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. I can't wait to hear what all of you guys have to say about this. They're just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, bro.
You know, it's New York.
Mm-hmm.
and they're dealing with the whiplash from what the government's saying that they can do and that they can't do. Like, this is was this like phase 3 of what we went through in California too?
Well, I mean, you never had a court push back and say all the regulations are here are you can't have these. You guys need to go back to the drawing board like midway in the market. That would have been great if that happened in California.
I appreciate that they took a quote from Fatima. She's an amazing attorney as far as I can tell. I've met her a number of times. So I appreciated that they were getting some perspective from people who are really doing the work out there. I think New York should allow, what state did you say that had just cleaned their clock on sales?
Missouri.
Is it Missouri?
Missouri.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a New Yorker, I would feel hyper competitive with Missouri. And the fact that they had been lapping me in terms of gross annual sales would keep me up at night. Hochul saying that it's a mess.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised she actually admitted to some reality.
Well, I mean, they say
she didn't admit it was a mess under her watch, though. She's still blaming Cuomo.
Of course, she's passing the buck. Of course. But
no, I mean, look, I think admitting you have a problem is the first step towards growth.
That's right. That's what they teach you in AA.
Yeah, right. And so I think she's on step 2. And I don't, again, I say this again, why are they not drawing talent and intellectual capital and brain capacity from people who have experience in other states and bringing those people in to avoid the anticipatable potholes? I don't know why that isn't happening. And then in your article, it said there's about 99 businesses permitted in New York.
99 licensed businesses as of Thursday, they said. That's great, right? And they're just estimating 2,000 trap stores. I mean, if New York, since they got this regulation, they need to view this as a gift and just offer licenses to anyone that wants to sell weed. Just give them the license to sell weed and just collect your tax revenue and just be happy.
New York is such an important market, and the tri-state area is so relevant and has been, it will continue to be. I guess the thing that worries me and keeps me up at night is the lack of a solid, strong indica. No, is the idea that people are going to conflate bad policy and inefficient rollouts with the benefits of legal cannabis. And so I just hope that people don't go, wow, look at how it's not working anyway. No, it's that policy and the execution and the implementation of that policy that's not working. Legal cannabis is great.
It's also what we're watching is the states that have a robust culture around cannabis of the most struggling legal markets. These are the markets doing well in Michigan, Missouri, and these other Oklahoma, and these other states go to prison for 5 to 10 years for having a joint. And so it wasn't really ever a counterculture established in those. New York and California, we've been doing this for 60 plus years. Yeah. People already know where to get better weed. Legal weed is trash for the most part. There's 1% of the 1% that's good. Even that, getting a $50 eighth with a 38% tax, you're paying like $100 an eighth and you have to go somewhere. You can literally pick up the phone and call somebody and you get a $40 eighth of some of the best weed in the world. And what I'd also like to say is, indica, New York is famous for being a sativa state. The piff, haze, the sour, and they know what they're doing out there. They're still smoking weed that actually gets you high. And so that's off if I had one to New York City for that. But yeah, it goes back to just the fact that to have established cannabis markets that are multi-decades long, and what the states should have done really in both is figured out how to integrate and work with the players who are already winning this game, instead of trying to wipe them all off of the board and then from.
Yeah. Man.
I mean, I've talked to
culture.
Yeah, shout out to the culture. I mean, I've talked to brands out there. I've talked to entrepreneurs out there. You know, our friend Mike from Chef for Hire, you know, and implementing a product launch with, you know, a variety of SKUs. And the biggest challenge for entrepreneurs out there is lack of retail. And so if they can't solve lack of retail, looking in the rearview mirror of what has afflicted states like California, it's just it's painful. It's painful. It's like being a parent and you're at a playground and you see your kid running and you see that they're about to fall and scrape their hands and their knees, and you're reaching out like, oh, don't do that. And it's happening in slow motion and you can't stop them from falling. And you know they're going to scrape their hands and knees, but you love them because you're your parent, but you wish that it wouldn't happen. That's how I feel like with New York. I'm like watching them for the last couple of years and I'm like, oh, please don't do that. And then they're home and they scrape their hands and their knees.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Hawaii, Mike, he happens to be watching today, and he just threw in the chat. He says New York is the largest consumer market. Where New York regulators really effed up was not thinking about the consumer. We need access to everything from everywhere, like we already have. And Hawaii Mike was in a recent article. And I did post that on the thread in the chat, so you are more than welcome to check that out. And I think something just happened. We just lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eclipse of all of the correspondence for a moment.
Eclipse. It was right.
I mean,
hey, look, he's back. Look at that. It was that eclipse, bro. Man.
I guess it was.
It's practicing for later.
Yeah, right. Man, we're gonna keep this train. New York is just the gift that keeps on giving, and we're gonna make sure we monitor this and keep you guys all abreast of all this. Rico, you want to introduce Matthew St. Germain since you're gonna be leaving shortly?
Yes, I will, man.
Amazing.
Up next, you know who it is, the man who lives on the astral plane, so solar eclipses mean nothing to him because he's bringing one every single day. Solar eclipse, lunar eclipse. You see them stars out there in the middle of the night of the sky? Man, you better turn them satellites off.